As Elaine said, my name is Lucy Obertelli and I'm an SDR at Refract, an Allego company. Historically, Refract has helped sales leaders to gain valuable insight into their sales team's conversations on the front line. Now, as part of Allego, we're also providing content, learning, conversational intelligence and coaching, which is quite a mouthful, all under one roof to help sales reps succeed. I've been in the SaaS world for almost 2 years now, and it's fair to say that I've been through the motions, both the highs and the lows. So what I prepared today is what I like to think of as my recipe for success in personalizing your outreach as an SDR and building a brand for yourself. But as with every recipe, this has come with its trials and tribulations. So I really hope this can save you some time and perhaps turn some of your rotten apple prospecting habits into some top banana outreach. So I'll start off with the power of personalization. I realized quickly when I was in the SDR role that I was always going to be a quality over quantity kind of gal in my approach and changing up how I prospect on a regular basis. However, I'm hoping that some of these examples can provide a snippet into how I try and personalize each method of outreach, but also the power that I believe it has on our prospects. So I really do hope that you're ready for the rest of the afternoon. And I'm going to start off with everybody's favorite, the humble cold call. So you learn quickly in sales that those first few seconds of a call are extremely valuable. Whilst I used to try and cram my research into those first few seconds, I now try to consider that experience on the receiving end. So the prospect is most likely very cold. They may have had a connection request from me on LinkedIn, but that's about it. So the first few seconds of a call, I always find it's key to appreciate that you're an interruption, a little bit like this. Hi X, it's Lucy calling from Refract. We actually haven't spoken before, although we did connect on LinkedIn this morning. Can I perhaps steal 35 seconds to tell you why I've chosen to give you a call today? Now, whilst my managers, Mark, Stu and Rich, will now once again be debating who came up with 35 seconds, 35 seconds works as it's not too long, not too short, and appears like a genuine ask, immediately putting your prospect at ease. From then on, personalization can be really simple. On a daily basis, I speak to a combination of sales managers, SDR managers, CROs a lot. So on a cold call, I try and keep it quite simple and instead really focus on the language, considering the challenges that they face daily in their role and using language which is going to resonate in their world. Remember, less about you and more about them. Now let's talk about emails. Prospects' inboxes are busy places, not only with other sales messages, but also with company internal emails, their HelloFresh orders, and whatever else might be in there. So a great place to start is the subject line. Keep it short, but whatever, it has to feel like this email could only possibly in this person's inbox. Researching your prospect is key. My time at school is definitely coming back to haunt me now, as I like to think of writing an email as a little bit like sitting an open book exam. I scan through a LinkedIn profile and I pick out 3 things which stand out. Perhaps it's posts they made about themselves or they've engaged with. Perhaps I take a stroll through their interests or anything like that, but I also give their name a quick Google search, because this can often bring up some gold. Then after my research, I think about the email, considering how I can bridge their interest and make it relevant to a conversation that I'd like to have with them. But these are my 3 golden tips. Personalization doesn't just have to be about them. It can be about their role, their team, or their company too. Don't worry, in my time, I've seen some pretty blank LinkedIn profiles, and this has always really helped. Another thing to remember is keep it short. Once you've written an email, go back and see if you can take out any lines and make it sound something more like a conversation with a friend or someone at the pub. And finally, the power of the PS. When Ronaldo announced his return to Old Trafford, the PS on his Instagram post had us all fighting back tears. And whilst the PS on your email may not trigger that reaction from a prospect, what I believe it does is really humanize that interaction. Perhaps you've noticed, for example, that they're a self-professed wine lover. In the PS, why not share your own favourite bottle of wine for them to try? If anybody's wondering, mine's a nice bottle of Chateauneuf de Pape. Now, whilst we're on the subject of written messages, I couldn't not mention the power of prospecting poetry. Whilst I'm not claiming to be Robert Frost, I do feel like my English literature degree is finally being put to some good use. In August alone, poetry helped me to book 18 meetings, which I hope justifies my claim that prospecting poetry really does work. So here's a quick example of what I tend to share with prospects. There once was a sales leader called Hugh, who was passionate about salespeople and developing them too, overseeing the sales team and leading the way, but he knew there were still key moments in calls being missed each day. It was hard for the team to choose which calls to review, but did you know Refract can do the hard work for you? So resurfacing the calls where opportunities are missed, or even the conversations which are absolute bliss. No more letting revenue slip through the net. Refract can power your sales team to be a triple threat, ramping up new starters quicker, as well as saving time, making sure you're winning more conversations and making more dime. So why does poetry work? Believe it or not, it really is scalable. As you've just heard from that, the personalization is only really needed for the first couple of lines. As well as that, it's the ultimate form of flattery and relatively hard to say no to. Finally, it's different and humorous. Poetry can help you to stand out as well as revealing some of your personality. As I've only got 7 minutes, and I'm definitely going over, and I'm also a fan of a shameless plug, do take a look through my recent LinkedIn posts, as you'll see some of my posts focus around a suggested prospecting poetry structure for you to have a go at yourself. Now, whilst I feel serious imposter syndrome introducing this topic, let's discuss how you can build a brand for yourself on LinkedIn. I'm totally aware that this imposter syndrome stems from the fact that around 12 months ago, I never thought anybody would be taking advice from me on a subject such as this. However, I'd be lying if I said that building a brand, or however you like to think of it, hasn't been my intention for some time. In doing so, it's brought me both results and great connections with other people in the industry, which have proved invaluable. So here are my top tips. Number one is to accept that it's a slow burn. You know how Miley Cyrus said, life's a climb, but the view is great? I like to think she was talking about the SDR role when she made such a prophecy. However, the notion stands. Having a brand, or even having those quick wins on LinkedIn, doesn't come easy. And I remember that being said to me within my first few days in sales. But here's the thing, we've all got to start somewhere. So even when it feels tough, post regularly, post advised about your own experiences, or perhaps take inspiration from other people's posts. You can post relatively industry relevant content, or my personal favorite, post videos and clips relevant to your role. Perhaps it's a coping mechanism at this point, but sometimes posting a come down with me clip to get over a colleague nicking your prospect is just what the doctor ordered. Which leads me nicely on to point number 2, which is to be authentically you. I asked a few of my friends how they would describe me, and at least 2 of them said they would use the word funny, and 2 out of 3 ain't bad. But joking aside, that's why a lot of my posts I try to make humorous. But whilst it's good to get a laugh on LinkedIn, it's also great for building connections. A lot of my conversations with prospects have started from saying things like, from one US office enthusiast to another. And it really is a great way to break the ice. Even better, more recently, prospects have started to come to me, which perhaps is one of the biggest benefits of regularly posting on LinkedIn. But my final point is to engage. Make connections with relevant people in your industry and engage with their content too. Also, to be sure to connect with people looking in your profile, as LinkedIn has that feature for a reason. And when you are connected, drop them messages and engage. Ask for tips, advice, ask them who you should be following and connecting with too. But more than anything, and as we should be doing in all our sales conversations, try to build connections and relationships. You begin to present yourself as 10 times warmer to prospects once you've already shared a conversation. So if you've made it through the final few seconds, then you definitely deserve a knighthood for listening to 7 minutes of my northern drawl. But here's what I'm hoping are your key takeaways. Number 1 is that personalization is key in whichever mode of outreach, and there are lots of ways in which you can do it. Number 2 is to be authentically you. Whether that's in building your brand or personalizing your outreach, remember that nobody does it better. And finally, set out to have conversations and make genuine connections with your prospects and not just to sell. Remember that every little helps. Thank you so much for listening. Do feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and I really look forward to catching some of you in the prospecting, in the networking bit later.
Yeah, you've got prospecting in your mind. It's not going to stop, is it?
Yeah, thank you.